Hello, and welcome to another episode of Anomalies. So, this week on our show, I guess I've kind of dubbed this as Cryptid Week because a few days ago, Sarah Rucker Thiessen and I were on with Andy McGrath, and he told us about all the weird critters that are in Great Britain, some of which you would expect and some of which you would not. So, um, to continue in this theme of worldwide critters, we have a guest who's been on with us before, Laura Vanzulli, who lives in Salt Lake City, but we're not talking about cryptids from Salt Lake City. We're talking about cryptids in South America, where she's originally from. So, Dave, this will be our chance to learn more about the cryptids of the world.
Oh, definitely. Will be exciting because there seems to be many commonalities between these creatures all over the world. It makes us wonder if they're related somehow, if they're if they're common illusions, or we really want to get to the bottom of it and see what the evidence is for these creatures. And some of them are pretty amazing looking, fantastic. And Laura has some very good information about several different creatures. So we'll jump right into it here.
So, Laura, how are you doing today?
Good, everything is fine. Thank you for your invitation to be here in your show. I would like to tell the people that language is not English is not my first language. My first language is Spanish because I came here to United States in 2001 to live with my family. So I am trying my best to communicate all of these weird things that happen around the world, as you said.
Yeah, your English is great. Don't worry about that. Yes, we can understand.
It's better than my English, so and I'm a native speaker, so I don't know what that says. One of the questions I want to ask you, Laura, is how did you now you have a podcast, Spanish language podcast that I tried to listen to, but I don't know enough Spanish to really know what's going on. So how did you get interested in all this weird stuff? And you may have talked about that on our previous show, but in case people didn't hear that, tell us how you got interested in all this UFO cryptid stuff.
Yeah, I love mysteries. I think that when I was a child, I started with these things. I started to think about these things because it was a great time for UFOs in Buenos Aires, in Argentina, when I was 6 years old. And my father, he saw something in the sky. And since that time, I started with this reading books, trying to find different records and movies and things about strange phenomena around the world. And actually, when I came here, I started to share this with other friends. And one day we tried to do this, podcast and inviting people to come, investigators and writers to authors, for different interviews and with topics around the world about these things. I think that I love mysteries. That's all. And I would like to know more about these things.
I think you're not alone about that.
No, we are not.
So should we just start talking about, so these are cryptids or unknown animals or hidden animals that are not just common to Argentina, but common to South America. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have a different in all of the countries of South America. The people mention some of them. Today we are going to talk about some of them because we have many. And we have stories and myths, legends, like the first legend, Mokalembembe in the Congo, Republic, and the people that mentioned that they saw a kind of dinosaur in the rivers. And we have others in South America, especially in Brazil, in the jungle, Bolivia. They have in Chile, in the coast of the Pacific Ocean, some stories. And we have one that is very important in Argentina is an abuelito. That's a kind of Nessie. in Scotland. It's a similar cryptid. So we are going to talk today about some of them, if you want.
Yeah, that's what kind of interests me is that after talking to Andy and Roland Watson, who's a Nessie researcher, it seems like every country has some of the similar kinds of cryptids, and that is of interest to me. But so we just pick a cryptid, and then you can start talking about it. Do you want to start there?
Yeah, let me jump in here. I just is a chupacabra something that shows up in South America,
Yeah.
or is that
Yeah.
a Mexican? Is there a version that shows up? I'm not sure if that creature is in your images that we'll show here shortly.
I don't know if I have the chupacabras, but it's one of the most important cryptids in South America too. We have many cases in Chile and in the north of Argentina too, close to Bolivia. Yeah, the people in the countryside, they always mention the encounters with this creature. It's related with the cattle mutilation too. We don't know exactly if this is the author of these things, but they mention a strange animal, with some extensions in the arms, in the hands, like catheter, and sometimes he is taking fluids from the animals. And yeah, we have some of these events too in South America, but it's most popular in Puerto Rico, in the island of Puerto Rico, yes.
So what is is there a rough translation into English for the chupacabra? What does that mean?
I don't know, because it's sucker is in English, because he is taking some fluids from others. So I don't know. It's and cabra is a kind of animal, similar calf. I don't know. Yeah, but I don't know exactly what is the word translation for chupacabras, because I think that most of the people use these words to identify this kind of phenomena. So because it's popular in the in South America, in the countries that speak Spanish. So
okay.
And Mexico. Yeah, Mexico too.
Mexico is where I've heard of it most, but it's interesting you say Puerto Rico and South America.
Yeah. The first case, I think that it was in Puerto Rico. I have a friend, he is Jorge Martin Miranda. He is an investigator from Puerto Rico, and he had the first interview with the witness that saw the chupacabras for the first time in the world, I think. It was in Puerto Rico, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I can share what little I know about chupacabra. I thought, and remember, I'm the non-Spanish speaking person in this conversation. I always remembered that chupacabra literally meant goat sucker. And where that came from. Is that right, Laura?
Yeah, I was a goat. Yeah. I was thinking in an animal. Sometimes I forgot the words, in English, but yeah, it was, because he's taking the fluids, the blood from the animals. Yeah.
It's like a kind of a vampiric kind of a thing that sucks the blood out of animals. So my question about the chupacabra, and you said you didn't have any, you didn't have a slide of that.
Sorry, I don't understand very well the question.
You didn't have a picture of that?
I don't have a picture, actually. I think that I didn't put one of this in the pictures. I have many. I don't know if you have the chupacabras, but
yeah. So my question to you, and maybe this is a question I got into a little bit. Sarah and I get into a little bit with Anthony or Andy, rather. Call him the right name there. So are these things real, or is this just folklore? And that's the big question about a lot of these cryptids. So what do you know about the answer to that question, Laura? Do chupacabras actually exist, or is that just somebody's tales about strange animals that may or may not exist.
No, I think that all of these things are real for me. Yeah. I was thinking about, because all of these things are surrounded with legends and stories, but I think that the origin of all of the things maybe is something that is true, that the natives mentioned this. They, in America, many tribes and natives, they mention this kind of cryptids in all of their stories. So I think that this is something real. I don't know if these are interdimensional beings. I don't know. I think that maybe they are in different dimensions, and this is the problem, because we can't see all of these things clearly, But for me, most of these stories are true, because the witness, they tell the stories, We have many. And with the Nahuelito is the same. With these cryptids in the Nahuel Huapi Lake in the Patagonia, Argentina, is the same. 2 days ago, a lady, she reported something that she saw in the lake, and she called one of the most important newspaper in Bariloche, in Neuquén, in that area in Argentina, and they have the news today. So she saw some waves and a shape in the lake, and it's something weird. So they have some pictures too about the encounters with this animal.
That sounds so much like what happens in Scotland with Nessie, same kind of story. So maybe this would work. Dave, why don't you put up if this works for you, why don't you put up a picture of an animal, and then we can have Laura talk about what that is.
Okay.
Does that work?
I will attempt to share my screen here. Let's see. Make sure the technology works here. Go ahead.
That's always a roll of the dice.
Yeah, no kidding.
Okay.
Now you can see something here. I'm just going to jump to a slideshow.
And then Laura, you can talk about whatever comes up, okay?
Okay, I can mention some of the animals in South America, the cryptids, more famous.
Okay.
Mhm.
It looks like it's going to automatically run through my images, which I don't want it to do. But who is this creature here? Oops, sorry.
I can see, I don't have the picture right now. I can see the first, but I can mention some of them, and you can show different animals. One that is popular in Chile is the camajueto. The natives in Chile, in the Chilean coast, they mention this animal because it's a mystery in that area too. It's in Chiloé. It's a group of islands, and it's called a Chibato Marino because it's a kind of bull or a calf, because it's small, it's not too big, but it has a one horn in the middle of the head. Yeah, the natives talk about this animal because it was in the sea, in the rivers, sometimes in the sweet waters and salt waters, but he is moving in the water. And they mentioned that the natives told that this horn that it has in the middle of the head, it has some, feathers like healing feathers. Yeah, they used this to be better when they were sick in the past. So, yeah.
That sounds like a unicorn in a way. Dave, is there a way you can focus on individual pictures, or is that?
I can just bring up a single picture.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
Yeah, let's do that. And then Laura
run through it by itself. I don't want it to run through it, but I guess that's what a slideshow is, according to Microsoft. So which of these images can you both see my screen or not? It sounded like Laura said,
Yeah, I can see, yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Actually, I think
Okay.
that is the number 5. The
It-
number 5. Yeah, I have other pictures before to show to the people that the legend of the Mokelembembe and some of these dinosaurs around the world, like Nahuelito, but that's the creature. Yeah, yeah. If you
So
click
where-
there,
Where Dave has the pointer, the
Yeah,
thing with the
yeah,
horn on it, that's what we're
click
talking about.
that's the
Okay.
picture of the Camahueto.
well, let's,
And that horn supposedly has healing properties, correct?
Yeah, yeah, healing properties. Yeah. That's the things that the natives mention, about this animal, but it's not an animal that they so often, it's in some occasions, but this is one of the cryptids of Chile. They mention this like a basilisco chilote. This is other name.
Mhm. And as far as we know, there's no bodies of this animal that have been recovered, or there's no DNA of the animal. So it's just kind of what people say they see.
I don't know exactly about that, because they don't have more information about it. I think that this is one of the stories of the area that is popular about this, but we don't know too much about it. This is one of the, yeah,
so this is a bull? Is that
yeah.
the head, and then what's the body though? Is that like a walrus or something? I mean,
I don't know.
what a strange combination.
Yeah.
It's a strange combination. Yeah,
Does
yeah.
it live in the sea, in the water, and then come out? I mean, what do the legends say about this?
The legend said that the people usually saw this in the waters and sometimes in the coast. Mhm.
Weird. It looks like it can't move very quickly. So if you saw it, you would be able to,
You could outrun it probably.
outrun it. Yeah, you want to stay away from the horn, but yeah, it's
Yeah,
a very odd combination of features. That's, yeah.
So let's
Yeah.
go to another one, the one that's just down below that has the long arms. The one to the left, yeah, that one.
One that looks
that one. Okay.
Yoda.
This is
What
other
the heck is that?
story. Uh-huh.
like Yoda.
Yeah, this is, yeah, they talk about the Milky people. They were, the people that live in the Andes between Bolivia and Peru, Ecuador too, and the central Andes, the mountains that are in South America. And it was not just one. They mentioned the Muki people, like, I don't know, they have a similarity to the Grays in some of the features. Sometimes they mention that are like goblins. Yeah. They
So-
call the Chinchiliku people. Mhm.
So is
And
there a thought, Laura, that that's an extraterrestrial? Or is that
I don't know. They mentioned that they live underground, they are underground people. And they talk about mines, rocks, that they live in caves under, the earth. And they have a big, story about them, because they mentioned that they have hypnotic eyes and deep voice, like the old people. They are aggressive, especially with children. They were afraid of their children because they mentioned that they took children, they kidnapped children. When the first priest, they came to America during the pre-Hispanic, time, they were teaching the people in Peru about Christianity. And then they had syncretism with this legend and the religion, because they mentioned that the Muki people sometimes kidnap the children that are unbaptized,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's like devils for them. But they have some aspects for me that are pretty close to the grays. The long arms, the big heads, sometimes the eyes that are red. And yeah, they were talking about this, that they have a pale face
Mhm.
and they appear always in the mountains. They live underground. So I think that maybe it's something similar to the grays or other races, maybe extraterrestrial beings.
You know, what you're telling me that's kind of interesting is you said that parents would sometimes threaten their misbehaving children, and tell me if I've got this right, with a visit from this creature if they didn't behave correctly. Did you say that?
Yeah, they were afraid of these creatures because they preferred children, and they take these children. They took these children, and they were afraid of these people, the Mookie people.
Why that's interesting to me is that if you look back at Bigfoot lore among native tribes in like in the United States, particularly where Dave and I live in Washington, Coast Salish, that's what they said about Bigfoot, that Bigfoot was like a boogeyman that would come and snatch you up if you're a kid if you didn't behave. So this seems similar to that.
Yeah. We don't know if this is something that the people add after they hear about other stories from Europe. Because of that, I was talking about the religion, that they mixed all of these concepts. Maybe the natives, they mix all of this knowledge. But yeah, they talk about these beings. We don't know exactly if are the same extraterrestrial beings, but this is the Mookie people that are in Bolivia and Peru and in Ecuador too, in the caves of Ecuador.
Let's pick another one that we could talk about. What's another one you'd like to talk about?
Well, the next is number 6. If you are counting, that one is the mapping wari. The mapping wari. This is one that for me is pretty similar to the Bigfoot, because it's a kind of ape, in the border of Brazil and Bolivia too. And it has 2 meter long and the skin is very thick. They mentioned that it was resistant, so they can kill this animal in the past. It has scales too in the skin and some hair that is a reddish hair. Yeah, it has claws, in his hands, and some of them mention a second mouth in the middle of the body. This is something weird, but
Yeah.
they
Yeah, that
mention.
would definitely qualify as weird. So you would compare this creature to Bigfoot or Sasquatch here in North America?
Yeah, it's similar because it's big, It has this skin with hair, and they mention a bad smell. I remember that I heard stories about Bigfoot and that it has a bad smell too. And they mentioned this, and it was the same with the other creature that they mentioned, the Mookie people.
Right.
They have a bad smell too, something like ammonia. I don't know, they mentioned. Yeah, and in 2007, one of the witness, he wrote something for the New York Times, and he mentioned this animal in the jungle, that it was standing in 2 legs. in the jungle. Yeah. And people.
Another interesting connection with the, I was surprised to find that there have been Sasquatch, well, they don't call it Sasquatch, but there have been Bigfoot creatures seen in Scotland. And I thought,
Yeah.
oh, come on, that's not possible. But that Andy said, that, yeah, it is possible. So,
Yeah, they have one in Aragon too, in Zaragoza. I was talking with an investigator in Spain, and he is studying the paranormal phenomena, and he said that he found some stories about the Basajaum, and the Basajaum is similar to Bigfoot and to the Mapinguari there in Brazil and Bolivia. The Basajaum, it was big, 2 or 3 meters, and he was talking about the skin with hair and the big head, and that he sometimes he do strange noises. So they have one in Spain too, close to the Pyrenees. Yeah.
is there any physical evidence for this Bigfoot-like creature in Peru and Bolivia?
Yeah, they have testimonies, yes. Sometimes it's the people that mention that they saw this creature. It's the same in Spain, and they have stories in the past about lights too. They have one of and the other phenomena with a big connection, the extraterrestrial lights and UFOs and this creature, and maybe others too, other cryptids too, like the Milky people, Mhm.
Well, what other cryptid should we talk about on this series
Well,
of slides?
yeah, you can see others. If you want to show the other pictures, I can talk about one of the most important in Argentina, that is the Nahuelito. Maybe we can start with this, that is a kind of dinosaur that the people mention in the lakes, but it's not just in Argentina. I was talking with a friend. She was doing an investigation in Mexico. They have in Guanajuato some crater lakes called the Alberca. They have more than 30 volcanoes in that area in Guanajuato. And she told me that they have one too. They have one strange animal, Plesiosaurus. I don't know if this is that kind of dinosaur, but they mention dinosaur with a long neck, and they have one in the Alberca too in Mexico. She told me that the boys that work there, that actually are working there, selling some souvenirs because it's a touristic, place. They are afraid to stay there during the sunset, and even during the night, because they could see sometimes these creatures in the lake, in this crater lake in Mexico. So I think that we have stories around the world, and this is in the Nahuel Huapi, that is a big lake in Argentina. Maybe we can see some pictures now about this animal, if you want to show to the people this creature that is like a dinosaur, like Nessie.
Is this one of them?
Yeah, I can see the picture actually. I am in my screen, I have many pictures, so but yes.
Okay, Dan, can you see my screen share though?
Yeah, I can see all of them, but I'm not really sure which one is the one Laura is talking about.
Yeah, it's the next, if you can see in the center, the picture that is green is the next one on my right. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can see, and you can follow with that. Yeah, and this is the animal that I am telling.
And that's in a lake in Argentina, right?
Yeah, it's in Nahuel Huapi Lake. It's a big lake with 557 square kilometers. So it's big. The surface is big. They have 400. It has 464 meters. Is deep. So
Yeah.
yeah. And they can see a lot of strange animals there, not just that this monster of this dinosaur, that kind of dinosaur, the cryptid. They are talking about other animals. For example, they mention the Mapuches there, that are the natives of this part of Patagonia. They mention the Huecufu. They call the cuero del agua. It's like an animal skin, like a stingray, or mantarraya is in Spanish. So they mention this animal too. That is a kind of skin that sometimes they can see this animal on the lake, sometimes on the rocks there in the lake, but it's a different animal. They talk about this too.
Once again, I'm struck by the idea that, yeah, that's a great picture.
So can you see, you can see this individual picture now?
Yeah.
Okay, I think I wasn't sharing this application specifically.
Okay.
I was just sharing the, this. So
Yeah.
the creatures that we've looked at so far, this was the first one.
Yeah, that's a cool one. That does look like a combination walrus unicorn kind of thing.
Yeah, it looks like it has armor or something too, which is very interesting. Combination of creatures. I've never seen a combination like that. And then because I wasn't showing it up close before, I'll just look at, I believe this is what.
Yeah.
This is the other creature you said that was Bigfoot.
The Bigfoot-like, yeah.
So that one you can see a little bit better.
Yeah, it's a little different, the head, but the legend, the stories are pretty similar. The things that the people said about this animal that they can find in the jungle. Yeah.
If it was on 2 feet, it would look more Bigfoot-like. Right now, it looks kind of like a sloth or something, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's a good description.
Sloth,
Yeah.
kind of hunched over, got the claws, but the face is ape-like, isn't it? I mean,
well, kind of.
It's hard to tell.
Although I almost get a bear-like.
Yeah, you're right, because the head.
All I know is if I saw that or any of the other critters we saw out in the woods somewhere, I'd be going home real quick.
Yeah. Let's see, what else did we talk? So now that you can see my, well,
go to the critter that lives underground, the one with the long arms. It looks like a gray.
Milky people.
Yeah.
Pretty scary looking at up
Yes,
close.
yeah.
Well, what I know
they were 1.5 meters long, not too tall. They are short sometimes. They mention this too.
It doesn't it look like the eyes, you said do they live in darkness? I mean, it looks like a.
Yes, they
like
live
they're
in
blind,
darkness.
maybe.
They live, underground. So they mention the mines that are there with different minerals, and maybe they live there. So these people there.
Have you guys ever seen the movie Salem's Lot?
A long time ago.
Yeah. Anyway, if you look at that face, not so much the body, that looks like the vampire in Salem's Lot, Mr. Barlow. Obviously not the same person, but that's what it reminds me of. Weird stuff.
Well, this is one of the ones.
Yeah.
Now this is not an actual photograph. I'm assuming it's just a reconstruction.
Maybe. But I have some pictures that I sent. That's real. Those are real pictures. If you want to show that. And a day ago, I think that yesterday or 2 days ago, a lady called, her name is Silvina. he mentioned something to the newspaper, the local newspaper there in Neuquén, in Bariloche. This newspaper is El Cordillerano, and she mentioned like other witnesses that she saw the Nahuelito one more time 2 days ago, and she said that she lives in the 23rd kilometer, and she was in front of the lake, and she saw this strange shape in the lake through her window. She was thinking first that it was a big boat. This is the thing that the people usually said, but when she was close, she saw the waves, in the water. That those shapes are this thing that the people always mention. These waves, the circles in the water around these things. And she said that she was saying the shape when suddenly disappear. And we have 2 pictures at the end of the pictures, if you want to show that these are real pictures that the people took in the Nahuelhuapi Lake. Yeah.
That's one of them.
Yeah, this is one, and we have other. These things happened since 1910. George Garrett, he was the first that report something that he saw. He was from 400 meters of distance, and he mentioned something that it was 5 or 7 meters long. This is the measure that the people always mention, 5 or 7 meters. Yeah.
Beginning to sound like a broken record, but you could take any one of these pictures or creatures and you could almost transport them to another country and they would fit right in because there are people in other countries are reporting the same kind of critters. Now, what are we to conclude from that, if anything?
I don't know. I think that they exist. One of the theories, they mentioned that maybe they have a communication beyond the lake, like cracks in the rocks or close to the mountains, and they can use that like corridors, to go to one place to another. And this is the thing that because we can't see these creatures continually, and just sometimes the people can see these cryptids, but I think that are real. In 1912, they had in that lake a shipwreck. And in the story of this ship, it was the Helvetia, they mentioned too that something happened that night with the ship, like a shape during the storm. So the sailors, they saw something in the lake that maybe caused them the accident. They have many things in the data of this big lake, many stories, yeah.
So what are some of these? These look similar. Maybe this one is a CGI, of course. I mean, computer generated, but it looks much more dinosaur-like, Plesiosaur, maybe Plesiosaurus.
Yeah, the people said that it was that kind of dinosaur because of the neck, this long neck.
Seen it this? Do people see it this far out of the water? I mean, if you saw something like this, it would be very clear that it's not a fish or an eel or something else that.
Yeah, no, maybe it's a reconstruction of the testimonies of the people, because when they can see these waves in the water, maybe the investigators can have some information and do that kind of pictures about the things that the people is saying.
What's
Um,
interesting about that picture, that the one that you said was a CGI kind of thing. When we talked to Roland Watson, who is a Nessie researcher in Scotland, he said there are actually pictures of Nessie on land where it got out of the water and walked across the road. Yeah, that picture. And people saw it walking across the road. And I wonder if there have ever been any reports of this kind of creature being seen on land, coming out of the water and getting on land. What do you know about that, Laura?
no, in the Nahuelhuapi Lake, they never mentioned these creatures out of the water. They mentioned that they saw these waves, that is one of the most important features about Nahuelito. But I don't have any, information about people that saw this animal out of the water. I don't know in the Ness Lake, I don't know if in this part of Scotland, but in Argentina, no, we don't have. But the Wekufu, the other animal, they saw this skin, a kind of skin. They mentioned that is a flat animal on the rocks of the lake.
Mm.
Yeah, the Mapuches, the natives there, they mentioned that it was resting on the rocks. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Here's another that looks.
Yeah, Mokelembembe. That was, yeah.
That's the one in the Belgian Congo.
Yeah, that's it. The story, I think that this is the origin of the story of these cryptids, especially like Dinosaur, because they mentioned the first time when the writers started with the stories, they mentioned this animal in Cameroon and in El Congo, Republic. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's on land, right? I mean, is it coming from land or it's?
I don't know, maybe both, environment. I don't know exactly.
It could live on land. It looks like definitely it's got the feet for it and the body.
Mm-hmm.
Scary creature there.
So the question I would have for both Laura and Dave is, what are the chances of a relic dinosaur, whether it be Nessie, the creature in the Argentine lake, or the creature in the Congo? What are the chances that a dinosaur has survived?
I don't know. Maybe some. No. We have other theory there in the Nahuelhuapi Lake. It's about some experiments that they did, some people during the government of Juan Domingo Perón. It was of the most important presidents, in Argentina. And during that time, he was working with some people from Germany, and they came to Argentina to work in one of the centers for radioactivity experiments there.
Right.
And one of the stories tell about some leaks that happen with the energy in the lake, and they are talking about these animals that maybe is a kind of mutation, is in English, mutación.
Yeah.
They mentioned that maybe it was one of the consequences of the experiments. So I don't know, you know many stories in that lake. So
well, it
Dave?
makes.
Go ahead, Dave.
Oh, well, it makes you question, because obviously these things remind us of movies, video games,
the
prior
Godzilla,
this one with the warrior down here fighting the sea creature, and it it always comes up, the question for me is which came first? Did the monsters come first, and then our collective memory of them and the terror that we experience because of them, did that create superheroes in our mind? Did it create myths and movies? The Marvel franchise, you know, is hugely popular, that movie, the comic books and everything. So which came first? A skeptic would say, well, of course it was the imagination.
Right.
That's why we're seeing these creatures in lakes and forests and everywhere else. It's because we have an imagination. But the other argument, of course, is that these things, dragons did exist, you know, these scary, unimaginably large creatures did exist, and therefore we're just remembering them, and they're just accounts, you know. And like you said, Laura, there could be remnant dinosaurs. We know we have all sorts of creatures that have barely changed over millions and millions of years, and some scientists say billions of years. When we look at some of the, I don't know, like a mollusk or a trilobite, you know, those living fossil creatures. So it's plausible to me, yes, that Bigfoot could be a branch of hominid that just went off by itself and hid from humans. And then we could also have these other creatures living in oceans and seas where there are relatively few of them, of course, which is why we don't see them very much. But it's reasonable that something could exist still, which is why I'm interested in this. Now, the weird thing, though, is that these hybrid creatures, and I know that that's Dan's thing, is he loves the Mothmen and the Wolfmen and you know, all those hybrid creatures that are like that weird thing you showed us, the unicorn with a walrus body. Those seem like they must be made up, right? But people swear that they've seen them. And that brings, you know, kind of brings it to the point that Laura made in the beginning of this interview, which was that some of these things may be interdimensional. They may be, you know, they may live in imagination or other realms, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't sometimes exist in our 3D reality. So there are lots of things to think about here, but I'd like Laura just to kind of talk about, you know, let's look at this creature. This looks very mythical, symbolic, you know, something out of Greek mythology or something. I mean,
Looks like a hydra.
yeah, what is this, Laura? Can you tell us?
Yeah, these are some of the cryptids in South America that they mention, and people in the past, they mention about the things that they saw. But I don't know, maybe it's a mix of all of the things that you are telling about the past, you know, of them, humankind. I don't know. I think that maybe it's both of the things. I believe in the theory, you know, the interdimensional beings, because one of the things that for me is important, that the people mention that they don't have pictures because when they are ready to take the picture, everything disappears in front of their eyes. So I am thinking that maybe they change dimensions, you know, that sometimes they can stay with us and sometimes they are living in other dimension, and in this, you know, second, so the people can't have the, you know, the evidence that we need sometimes.
And they may live in a reality that is very fluid and creative too.
Yeah.
But we look at the creature here that has 7 evil dog heads or something. It's unbelievable. You would think, well, biologically it shouldn't be able to live, it shouldn't exist. But if you're existing at least partially in another more fluid realm, the realm of imagination, where potentially humans are even creating these things unconsciously, subconsciously, it opens up a whole other, you know, avenue of investigation. But like you say, it's probably not something we can easily pin down or treat scientifically with pictures and measurements. It's something that probably will remain in that realm.
Yeah, we don't know what happened with our planet you know. The Greek people, they mention sometimes chimeras, some chimeras. These are like hybrids, a mix of different realities. I don't know exactly, but we have all of these stories around the world for sure. Yeah, we have in South America too, these things.
One question comes to mind. I don't know how long ago that was. Maybe it was 10 years ago. So I went with something called the Bigfoot Field Research Organization. We went up to Strathcona Provincial Park on Vancouver Island, and we looked for Bigfoot for about 3 days. Didn't see hide nor hair of Bigfoot, but met some very interesting, maybe slash weird people. So are there organizations, and that organization looks at Bigfoot, but are there organizations that study these cryptids in the different countries in South America? Like, is there the Argentinian equivalent of the people here in the United States, or the Nessie Watchers? What would you say about that, Laura?
I think that we need to have more, support with all of these things and the investigation. And I think that one of the things that happen for me is that the people, they don't believe in the things. It's hard to believe that we can find or see extraterrestrial beings. But the people accept more easily these creatures these other creatures that we are talking today, because they think that maybe are part of stories, legends, myths. They don't believe in this like real thing. And to start an investigation, we need to find the support of people that believe. Sometimes that they could believe in these things, like something real. For example, in the Nahuel Huapi Lake, I brought sometimes different, information for my show. And one of the investigators that came, it was Miguel Angel Rossi. He is film director, and he is doing an investigation. I share with you too these videos if you want to show some of the material. Here, he's doing a documentary film about the things, just to take more seriously, these stories, especially because the people is telling all the time that they are seeing the things in the lake. So he's starting with this few years ago. Actually, he's finishing the documentary. It wasn't difficult because, the financial support, the things that always happen. So, but he is actually finishing this movie, Bajo Superficie, Beyond Surface. I think that is in English. Mm-hmm. And he's showing, all the people that is helping the Armada Argentina. They are helping, with this investigation, and they are taking different videos to show to the people with robots, that kind of cameras. They are filming under the lake, and they are showing different things and trying to record some sounds too, sounds under the lake, to help the people understand that something is happening there.
So it sounds like it's really the private sector in Argentina and maybe other countries that really have the time and money to do these investigations, like the documentary that we're talking about. And it's not the government. Does the Argentinian government take any interest in these creatures or try to explain their existence?
Actually, I don't think so. I think that is something private that they are doing by themselves, trying to finish this, and it's real expensive. They work with different cameras, the design of different cameras to help them to see the things that are happening there. and it took a lot of time, you know. They were working for years to have all of this information, and I share with you some videos if you want to see the way that they are working with some cameras under the lake, trying to record all of the things. They are continually working in this. That's the lake. It's beautiful. Patagonia, Argentina, yeah, it's beautiful.
Are
It's a
you in a
beautiful.
position to show that video?
Yeah, I can show. This is all about the production of the movie, right? The documentary.
Yeah.
People in action here. Now this is, I saw this. What is this? That's pretty interesting.
No, because they have many, you know, the records that they found about different things that the people mention in the area, because it's a legend in the area in Bariloche too. They people talk about the Nahuelito, the Nahuelhuapi monster. Yeah.
So what does that translate to? Little, how do you spell it, or how do you say it again?
Nahuelhuapi.
Yeah.
It's about an island. This is the language of the Mapuche tribe, you know, Mapuche natives that they live in the area of Neuquén, and they were talking about a jaguar that live in the island that is in the lake, the Victoria Island. So in this language is Nahuelhuapi. Yeah, the island of the Jaguar Island or something like that. Yeah.
Did you say Jawa?
Jaguar, like, I don't know, in English, it's an animal, like a kind of
Jaguar?
tiger.
Jaguar?
Yeah.
The cat?
Yeah, the cat.
Okay,
Yeah.
because that's very symbolic in many, especially South Mexico, South America. I think the jaguar is very sacred. Is that right? I mean, it exists in lots of myths. It's very revered, sacred, special for some reason. But many animals are special, but the jaguar, when we went to Mexico City a long time ago and looked at the Mayan ruins, and you know, it was made clear that the jaguar had something very special, held very special abilities or qualities. So it's not surprising to hear that that's, you know, that creature comes up here. Of course, we know that creature exists, but there are probably variations of that cat, right? I don't know. It's fun to get into the.
Maybe because, I don't know, they thought that this was something sacred, that lake and the things that happened there, because the people saw sometimes lights too, you know, like UFO things in that lake too. Yeah, close to the lake, happened one of the most important events of the ufology in Argentina, that it was the Bariloche case, you know, when this pilot that was working for Aerolíneas Argentinas, Jorge Polanco, he was the captain, he saw that light that night. It was one of the most important cases of the ufology in Argentina, and it was in the close to this lake too. So I think that many things happen, important things in this lake and in that area.
Laura, where's Patagonia in Argentina?
It's the south part, you know, of the
Southern part of the country?
Yeah, the south part, Rio Negro, Chubut, Santa Cruz are the provincias, like states that we have here in United States. This is a territory, and Neuquén, you know, we mentioned Tierra del Fuego is in the south part of the south of South America. Yeah.
Now, was it Jacques Vallée beyond Patagonia? Is that?
I saw Jacques Cousteau.
Jacques Cousteau. It's one of the Jacques. I'm drawing a blank here.
So he must have had some interest in that creature too.
That's a time, and this is a timeline that he prepared, Miguel Angel Rossi, that is the film director, to show the people the things that happen, you know, the background, all of the things that happen in this story. So he's showing since this year's, 1907.
Yeah, my translation is very poor. I can understand some of the words, I think, but
you can see in 1922 the news that the world knew about, you know, the monster of the Nahuel Huapi Lake, and the Armada Argentina, you know, the Navy, I think that is in English, tried to find in 1960 one object there. They thought that maybe it was a submarine, but they didn't know about it. They were following the things for 18 hours, I think, in the story, but they never know what happened that night. It was a kind of object like a submarine. In 1978, Jacques Cousteau, he was trying to find them monster in Patagonia. Yeah.
Let's see.
This is the thing that he's mentioning. Some divers, they mentioned that they saw something in 1887, 85. Yeah. Many people that were there, you know, like divers, they always mention that shape in the water.
One of the things that Andy mentioned, and also we heard from Roland, particularly about Nessie, is the attempt to capture sonar images of that creature. Do you know whether they've tried anything like that with this?
Yeah,
creature?
they were working in the film. He mentioned that they have some information about it. I don't know if we can see this in the video that we have today, but they were taking.
They've used that, huh?
Yeah, the data, yeah. This is something that they found in 2018, and never said, you know, to the media this information, because they found some bones there too, and I think that is just something that they are keeping in secret, you know. The people, they don't know around the world what kind of bones are those that they found close to the lake.
So are you suggesting, Laura, that the government of Argentina or maybe some other countries would keep information from public knowledge if they found out more about these critters?
Well, I think that maybe is something that happened with all of the things, the paranormal events, the UFO sightings sometimes. I think that, yes, that is something that they try to I don't know, put in other, you know, area that the people, I think that they don't want that the people ask too much about it. So yeah.
They'll have to explain too much if any of this is treated seriously, especially with the UFO phenomenon. You know, of course, we've talked about that many times in the show, that once you admit that the government has not been completely honest about one thing, it opens up a can of worms, so to speak. So many questions about, well, if you lied about that, then you must have lied about this and that, and what about that incident? And after a while, it gets out of hand, and no government wants to, of course, deal with those kinds of questions. Well, unfortunately, the default seems to be, let's just suppress it as long as we can until it
Cover it up.
comes
Yeah.
out. Yeah, I mean, it's a reasonable, it's evil, you know, you could argue, but it certainly a reasonable response from a government that's tasked with keeping us safe. You know, you can always make a case that, well, we were hiding it from you to keep you safe.
Well, not only that, to maintain public order,
Yeah.
because if some of this stuff got out, I had a feeling that public disorder would prevail. I'm being conscientious about time here. We've had Laura on the phone for about an hour now. Is there anything else, Laura, you want to show us or have us look at? And then maybe we'll spend the last 15 minutes just trying to summarize some of the stuff as to why it's important.
Well, we were talking about all of the things and the things that happen around the world tonight, and I think that in my show, I was talking with some investigators. I was telling to you this, and they mentioned these phenomena around the world in areas that are totally different. You know, like Spain and now Argentina, and in the United States, and with all of these stories about South America, I think that we need to pay attention of all of these things and take these things more seriously, you know, because I can see that we have more than legends here. And sometimes if you don't have support, you know, financial support, like the things that happen with this group in Argentina that are trying to find the answer in this lake, you can finish the things, you can follow with your investigation, and sometimes this is the thing that happens. So but I believe in these things, and I think that maybe the people have more, you know, testimonies and things to share with the world. Maybe we need to wait to see more, to see the answer.
What I got thinking about is, and maybe they have these, but I just don't know about them. Do they have any kind of international cryptozoology symposium where people could come from all these different countries and kind of share their research findings and see where the commonalities are? Are you aware of anything like that?
No, actually, I was in the a week ago. I was participating in the symposium that we have here in the Winter Mountains in Vernal, Utah. It was
Vernal, yeah.
yeah. We had a lot of, you know, information and about the UFO events, and in the event that we had before, it was the Phenomenon. We were talking about this kind of things, you know, cryptids. It was with us Dr. Jeff Meldrum, and he mentioned the different investigations that he did in the winters and in the United States about the Bigfoot and other creatures. And but I don't know nothing about Symposium, you know, about this these topics like cryptids around the world. But I think that it will be great if we can have something like that.
Maybe we ought to start something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Dave, Dan, and Laura Cryptozoology Summit, something like that. Because I
Yeah.
think it would be interesting to talk to people from other countries who see similar kind of creatures, and what's the evidence for them? Is it just a bunch of stories that people hear about? So yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and for me, it's a great opportunity too. It's a challenge for me to try to explain all of these things with new words, you know, and new
Yeah.
vocabulary for the mysterious things in English. But it's an opportunity to learn and to share the things with the people.
I agree. Dave, do you have any final thoughts here for Laura?
I'm thinking, again, Laura brought up another good point about investigating. She says she believes in these things. To a scientist or a skeptic, that might not be enough. You say, well, you need more than belief. You need physical evidence. You need, corroborating witnesses, all those things that science needs. But what I always think about in all of these kinds of topics is that there are two errors you can make in science. One of them is to believe something that's not true, but the other one is to not believe in something that is true. And I think we should err on the side of believing that this could be true, because that the potential reward of these creatures being real and UFOs being real and psychic phenomena, all these other things being real, the consequences of that being true are tremendous. They would mean so much to humanity and evolving and learning. So I would much rather make the error of believing in something that's not true than to say, nah, I don't think that could be true, so therefore I'm not even going to investigate it. I think that's a much worse error to make, is to brush off all this stuff and say, it's probably not true, so why bother? So Laura made the great point that we should just keep investigating these things. Maybe we'll see that some of it's not true. Maybe we were wrong on certain things, but the consequences of not investigating some of this strange stuff is that we miss out potentially on a lot of very important things. And I think that's why Dan and I do this show, is because we'll touch on some truly crazy things that are pure conspiracy or pure imagination. But in that process, we will run across some things that are very fundamental truths that move us ahead. So that's what I always start thinking when I talk about some of this stuff, and the skeptical part of my brain creeps into my thoughts and says, well, gosh, that creature looks like a purely imaginary thing. How could that possibly exist? And then the other part of my brain says, let's just examine it and listen to the testimony and see where it takes us. So those are my parting thoughts here. And Laura really does a good job, I think, of being honest that she doesn't know certain things, but also showing that she's very enthusiastic and sees the value in continuing these sorts of investigations. So we need more people like Laura, definitely.
I agree.
Thank you.
So I appreciate your efforts too. And it's tough. We don't get funding either. It's so hard to get funding for a lot of this stuff. So you push ahead anyway.
Well, Laura, is there anything else you would like to share with us before we let you get back and investigate cryptids at the downtown Salt Lake City?
No, I don't have more information, but thank you very much one more time for your invitation.
Always happy to have you on. And
please let us know, when there are more developments too. I know in our prior show you came on with some very interesting investigations that were kind of in progress. So if you have information on some of those investigations, just please let us know, keep us in the loop. Of course, we can listen to your podcast too, right? How do listeners find out more about you? I can put a link in the YouTube description.
Yeah, it's Antes de Media Noche. It's a show. We are in Facebook, and this is our page in Facebook, Antes de Media Noche. You can see an eye, that is the logo. And we have our channel, Antes de Media Noche, Utah, USA, in YouTube. If the people want to follow us, we are every Thursday at 6 p.m. Utah time with different, stories and paranormal things and events about UFOs, and with many investigators.
Okay, and can you spell that for me just to make sure I get it?
Antes de Media Noche.
Yes, please.
Yeah, ANTESDEMEDIA N-O-C-H-O. No, E, sorry. Antes de Media Noche.
I
Yeah,
think-
it's before midnight in English. But
Oh, okay. Oh, good. Yes, I see.
before midnight. Yeah.
Okay,
But
good.
it's in Spanish. Sometimes we have the subtitles
Mhm.
in English for the people. It depends the guests that we have, the investigators that we have, but usually it's in Spanish. Yes, it was thinking for the people in Spanish around the world, but now we are having some investigators in English from USA and other countries. Yeah.
If those podcasts that you do have subtitles, I'd love to hear one of them.
Yeah, we are putting actually some subtitles because when we first started with this, we made all of the podcasts in Spanish. So
Yeah.
with people from Chile, Argentina, and Mexico, and the people that live here in United States. But now we can see that we need to join all of these people, because it's the same question. It's the same question that we have about all of the things, strange things, that
just
happen.
broadens the conversation to be able to hear different languages. Well, once again, thank you, Laura, for being on. I hope you, I know you had a little bout of rough health there, and I hope that you're on the rebound, and maybe we'll have you on again.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
All right.
Dave.
All right.
Buenas noches, mi amiga.
Gracias a ustedes, amigos. Nos vemos.
Gracias.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, good night.